Hi there, and thank you for joining me for today's live reading of Lab Spill, a dark comedy, maybe, the Cool Thing series, Book 2 by Robert Rife, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Prologue. Hector has been in the old Roatan house too long, far too long. He was to steal something quick to prove he'd gotten in. Amy waits, shivering on the moonlit porch, clutching her car keys. Night breezes mutter darkly of evil, whispering through the vine-covered fence, where an impaled body has been found. Hector will come out, but he will not be the same. Neither will Amy. Chapter 1. The Waydowns. A bright yellow growth covers much of the corridor walls, spread out in irregular blotches. Bubbles form beneath the glistening surface, slowly pushing out and then subsiding. Occasionally, one will burst with a softly spitting sound. It is breathing. Further down the hall, a rat scurries along the floor, keeping very clear of the slowly pulsing mold. Its other head, eyeless, flops from its back. Both mouths continually open and close. The teeth make clicking noises. It pauses at a doorway, both mouths tasting the air. Then it darts across the opening. It's not fast enough. Not fast enough to escape the lightning-quick jaws and teeth that snatch, crunch, and swallow. The human had been fast. Far above, on ship's deck 19, Darren watches from his monitor screen, slowly shaking his head. He's been ordered to reclaim that area, to sanitize another part of this long-buried ancient starship, to retake some more of these decks lost long ago when an experiment had horrendously corkscrewed, resulting in the total quarantine of all decks below 19. All decks, complete confinement, no exceptions, because every living organism beyond 19 had become different, had become changed, altered, wrong, including the human staff, especially the human staff. After the quarantine came mutiny, followed shortly by anarchy, madness, and rampant slavering cannibalism. High Command sealed all entrances, welding them shut, painting out all traces. Immediately following this erasure came an incredulous announcement, one that only World War II military could get away with. Those lower decks didn't exist anymore. They had imploded. They had been vaporized. They were gone. It was wartime treason to even speak of them. Knowledge of the lost decks faded into whispered rumors, and through the years became a dark company legend, the Waydowns. But despite any official proclamations, all the men, women, plants, and animals sealed below did exist. Those that survived the initial horror, betrayals, and chaos continued to change. Months became years, and the years grew into decades, and some of those life forms endured. So did their spawn. The entombed ship continued to function for all decks, Waydowns included. Power units installed centuries ago, galaxies away, kept on providing. Protein slabs, liquid nutrients continued, and things grew. Many things did. Whispered tales of the Waydowns weren't just forbidden scuttlebutt to Darren's boss, Dr. Lilith Sally Gost. She'd been stationed on Deck 19 even before the experiment catastrophe, and she had a way back into those so-called vaporized, non-existent decks. Knowledge she never shared with High Command. She wanted those lost decks and all that they held, or gave birth to. She also began to use the Waydowns as a dumping ground for all her splicing and breeding failures, dead or not. They were lab spill, no longer human. Zooming the view back, Darren looks at what will be his entry point. The area is flame blackened for about 30 feet, and a little beyond the charring is the body, lying face down. It's human, or had been. Viscous fluids drip from too many bulbous arm joints. The neck is odd, the feet a nightmare. The spill had run, but not quick enough to escape the firebombing. A monstrous once pretty face abruptly appears on his screen, overriding Darren's channel. Lilith overrides everything. From Deck 19 on down, Dr. Lilith Sally Goust is God. There is no need to tell the staff. They know it. The few personnel left working on decks above 19 never take the lift down to that dreaded floor. They might never return. Others haven't. Those missing became useful. They became volunteers to aid in the advancement of science. Some lasted for years. Report, Lilith demands. The voice is old, very old. It's raspy, her face blotchy, scabbed, and the feral eyes boil with fever. She'd been spill-bitten days earlier, and the infection is consuming her. Certain areas of Deck 19 had been originally designed for deep space flight and still sent out time adjustments or time treatments periodically. It vastly increased longevity, but no one is immortal. Dr. Gauss is finding that out. She wipes at blood beneath her mouth, leaving a glistening smear pebbled with debris. She had been eating. The entry point has been fired. We're going in. I'm taking a crew of 3, Darren answers quickly. I harbor no doubt you're going in. I ordered it. Or have you taken some testicle pills and gotten nerve enough to change a directive of mine? I want you to secure only enough area that can be locked down. Then you will return forthwith. You are going topside on a retrieval mission. Yes, Doctor. The crew's ready. I'm going to join them at once. Oh, yes, Mr. Gostein, indeed you are. And remember, do not kill. I want viable specimens, especially anything that can talk. And stay clear of that mold you call gunch. I suspect it is the deadliest organism in the Waydowns. Do not bring any of that back onto my deck. Immediately kill anyone that comes in contact with it. Mind me, man. Mind me. And her image is gone from the screen, but not from Darren's brain. That face is with him always. Darren Gostein, head of Deck 19 security, is a heavily burdened man, a doomed man, a man who has seen too much, knows too much, done too much. A once good man now trapped in a job from which he will never be allowed to quit, never be allowed to leave alive. And here, deep beneath the New Mexico scrub and sand, there are fates worse than death. So much worse. Joining the 2 women and 1 man, Darren readies the group for hell. They're all killers, all society discards, and all are expendable, which was exactly why they'd been hired. None of them think they need any preparation, but he knows better. He's seen more of the Waydowns than they have. We're under new orders to secure only the immediate area, and remember, do not kill, stun only. We're to bring back whatever alive. He's saying this mainly for the women, as they lean more to bloodlust. My orders to all of you are the same as always. Defend yourself and don't get taken. They might not kill you. Think we'll be attacked this time? Patty asks eagerly. She's psychopathic, psychotic, and other mind aberrations for which there are no labels. Beneath an explosion of short, straw-colored hair, a grinning skull tattoo leers from her forehead. Army washout, ex-biker, and escaped convict, Patty likes to kill. And she's seen what the spills are capable of. They are insane with hungers not limited to food, and Patty is a little like them. Maybe, probably, answers Darren. I've fried the elevator entranceway, and the monitor shows a spill laying several yards in. No way to tell if it's one of Dr. Gauss's discards or a mutation birth descended from the original. It hardly matters. Where there's one, there will be more, and the gunch is growing in spots on the walls. Avoid contact at all cost. No one knows what it can do. If any gets on your clothes, shuck them at once. All fucking right! Ain't this starting to sound like fun? Quiet, deathhead. The other woman, Elena, stays silently impassive, brooding, taciturn, unreadable. Barely held eruptions simmer within the shaved head. Big, muscular, and swarthy, she's ex-military, combat veteran, dishonorably discharged. It hadn't been for cowardice. Any sign of the bugs? Asks Wong. Smart, with delicate features, a black belt holder with totally dead eyes. He'd been recruited while out on bail awaiting trial. It seems he'd misplaced his wife and children. The law thought, given the massive insurance policy he'd taken out, that Huang knew where they were at. The cops were right. Huang knew exactly where they were, and they were likely to stay there. No bug sightings, answers Darren. The brain above, he says, jabbing a thumb upward, thinks they may no longer exist. The spills kept eating their larvae, so they tried to nest in an old topside house, but it's doubtful they survived the air. However, if we see one, it'll be wanted. Topside? Blurts Patty. Fuck me, how in hell did they get topside? Ain't all the shit buried? Of course it's all buried. Everyone has probably figured that out by now, answers Darren. To clarify it for any piss brains, we're down deep beneath the topside building all of you came through as newbies. When the elevator dropped from there, you enter the ship and it's entombed by melt sand radioactive glass. Has been for centuries. He's trying to stop any thoughts of unauthorized leave. Authorized leave didn't exist. But the ship, or how the bugs got out, is not our business on this picnic. Okay, sweeties, let's go. The khaki-clad group watched the door slide open, revealing the charred corridor. Blackened walls peeling with strips of dead fungus, and a stench hits them like a giant fist. A tsunami of abandonment and neglect, of despair, of rot, of death, of abomination. Ahead, the body lays like their welcome mat. One knobby arm is stretched out ahead of the carcass, as if showing them the way. Enter, enjoy, die. Patty takes point, voltage prod in one hand, Uzi in the other. Darren follows a few paces back, off to one side. Huang takes the other. Elena walks center. All are outfitted the same, and except for Patty, their Uzis hang from shoulder straps. Everyone grips a prod, their net guns are holstered, knives sheathed. Beneath their feet, the deck hums from its ancient energy source. Walking slower as they leave the blackened area, they pass the dead lab spill, and ignoring the reek of fried meat. Their destination is the opening where the two-headed rat had gotten unlucky. Patty halts for a second before showing herself in the doorway. She's feral, but not stupid. Taking a deep breath, dropping to a knee, she slides into the opening, Uzi extended. Behind the group, that dead spill silently rises. Its jaws unhinged, opening a vast, ulcerated mouth, a gaping maw with many jagged teeth. Chapter 2. Many miles from the ship, Elastic Ethics. While still a child, RL had murdered his stepfather. Just a little. The sharp, pecking beaks of the chickens had helped considerably as RL kept on sprinkling out their feed, tossing the crushed grain generously over those bulging eyes and lolling tongue of that good Christian man, as the cruel bastard convulsed with his heart attack. Yes, RL and the poultry had sent that Bible-thumping, belt-wielding nightmare to his just reward. Life had gotten a lot better after that. There had never been any remorse. None. Now, at 43, RL's life is basically good. Well, there were a few problems. Dina Lynn, the street girl he'd been fool enough to think he'd fallen in love with, had ran off with some younger turd. The fact that she might be pregnant also jabbed a fork into his brain occasionally, about once an hour. And his neighbor, Jayderay, the woman he's too bacteria-brained to realize he's loved for years, she's steadily writing him about the medieval breastplate. This piece being locked away in his back room safe wasn't good enough. She wanted it gone. Problems, always people. RL no longer thought the breastplate was medieval. It was older than that. Either it was magical, which was bullshit, or it was not from this planet. Whichever it was didn't matter. It was worth money. A ton of money. But peculiar crap did happen when it was around. Wives got happy, things went missing, and there had been other occurrences, like people vanishing and monsters. Yes, he really did need to get rid of the thing. Of course, that didn't mean he shouldn't make an obscene load of folding green out of it, somehow. There's always a way, and where cash is concerned, any way will do. RL's ethics and morals are adjustable, very adjustable, about like silly putty. He's an antiques dealer. Sitting at his home office desk, RL is surrounded by worthless junk, crap that will soon become exceedingly valuable merchandise. As soon as it was at the shop and in the hands of the silly bastard Frankie, whose ethics and morals were even more stretchy than RL's, there wasn't much of anything they couldn't wrap around. Running fingers through mostly still black hair, RL can't concentrate because of that damn breastplate. Quit being an idiot. You can't do anything with it right now. Do something useful. Cheat somebody. An explosion shakes the house, a blast coming from that back room. Chapter 3. On Ship's Deck 19. On the same morning, above the Waydowns and in Deck 19's laboratory, a thing has also been thinking about the breastplate. A thing with an eggplant-colored, greasy, duck-tailed hairdo and lavender-colored, slightly scaly skin. Or at least it had been thinking about it until the bomb went off. The bomb it had made. The bomb it had set off. From mathematically voided miles away, this lavender thing had reached through the breastplate and dropped that explosive inside RL's safe. The thing had stood there watching. Standing there had been a slight error in judgment. The breastplate was actually an extender, part of a gather suit from this long ago crashed and buried starship. Whenever the piece was activated, it nullified distance, allowing exit or entrance through the ship's portal area, where the duck-tailored bomber thing lived and had been conceived. This thing, Proby, had not grown to plans. No, not exactly. Proby, flipping the unexpectedly powerful device into RL's safe, had wanted to free the extender so he could start back to sneaking out topside. Stealing toys and maybe find that big woman again, the luscious fat wife that he'd repetitively screwed into a permanent delighted state of nymphomania. In her dark bedroom, she'd screamingly thought her alcoholic husband had finally risen to the occasion. But that stud had been downstairs in drunken oblivion, passed out on his desk. The following day, the old sot had been very mystified, not to mention mortified and afraid. Very afraid, for his wife had become happy and attentive. very attentive. Proby hadn't known if the grenade would work. It had. He's not thinking about the extender anymore, or that big thrashing woman, or anything else. He lay several feet back from the portal, sprawled face up across an operations console, smoke pouring from his blast-seared gold lame sports coat. Buttons from his black satin shirt are scattered about the floor. Steam rises slowly from his pomaded hair, which now sticks out in all directions like scared spaghetti. He is shoeless, since both blue suede loafers are in front of the portal opening, where he'd been standing when he released the bomb. Proby's day isn't going well. From the lift in storms one of Proby's very unhappy creators. With his lab coat flying behind him, Dr. Moto races into the room. What has the reptile shit done this time? It sounded most destructive. Proby, what have you... Oh, have you killed yourself? It would be most exceedingly excellent to finally be rid of you. Slowing to a walk, Moto creeps hopefully toward the blast-barbecued creature. He notices smoke rising from a pair of loafers standing before the portal screen. Steam also drifts slowly out of Proby's ears. Proby's eyes snap open. His long lashes have been burnt to nubs, and the tip of his nose is black. Where am I? He strangles out. Raising his head, looking down the smoking body, he's relieved he's not seeing his own back. Oh, here I am. So, I see you are alive. How very fortunate, says Dr. Moto. What exactly have you done? I thought certainly you were dead. Why couldn't you be, you most honored pool of lizard urine? However, Proby had been left in Moto's care, so the little bastard surviving wasn't all bad. Displeasing Lilith was definitely something he cared about. She wanted rid of the troublesome turd, but it must be on her terms, as all things must be on her terms. I'm not sure what I did, lies Proby, slowly getting off the console. Dr. Moto helps him to a stool and glancing over at those shoes sitting below the portal screen. And I presume you know nothing of the blast I heard, do you? Never mind. Dr. Moto runs his hand over short, snow-white hair, studying this fried and steaming specimen of a lab experiment. This decades-old 1950s teenager, Dr. Lilith Gauss's personal project, created by her for her pleasure. Moto shakes his head in disgust. This ludicrous mistake, and the creature still believes it's human, and Elvis. Listen to me, Proby. Dr. Gauss has been too sick with that spellbite to do more than direct the Waydowns reclaim. If she were not ill, I doubt you'd be here. You would be tubed in cold sleep, or dead. Maybe even worse. There's always the pit. You're fortunate I'm the one here, or this latest stunt would probably be your last performance, Elvis. Proby, his brain still sloshing about from the explosion, is beginning to pat and smooth himself out. His hands reach the top of his head, causing a horrified expression. My hair! Snatching a comb from the black slacks, he begins frantically raking at the steaming spikes and coils. What had been artfully coiffed 50s teen angel do now looks like something a syphilitic crab would be embarrassed about. Dr. Moto laughs, patronizing the creature by using the cool cat jive it loves. You, a man without a plan. The king has done been fried, Clyde. You're not looking like Elvis right now, more like a sad dad. Go get in your groomer, and I strongly advise you not to look in the mirror. When you're through, report back. Lilith made me respond. Screaming, a lab spill vaults into the room, its rotted teeth dripping as the jaws unhinge. Dr. Moto swirls about, and the monster is on him, multi-jointed arms wrapping around, cavernous mouth open.